Beloved friends, have you ever felt as if the signs of the end time were here, or if the world is closing up on you because of all the things happening in your life? Today we celebrate the 33rd Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year C, and as we come towards the end of the liturgical year, the readings tend to center on apocalyptic themes. Thus, they invite us to look not backward, but forward towards the end of all things and the final fulfillment of God's plans. As we have witnessed in the past decades, strong institutions and worldly systems continue to collapse. For example, the Western Roman Empire collapsed. The Soviet Union collapsed. The Weimar Republic in Germany also collapsed. And even financial institutions in America have seen the collapse of Lehman Brothers in 2008, Washington Mutual and Silicon Valley banks in 2023. Where then is the meaning of life? The eschatological tone of today's readings seem to unsettle us because they talk about war, earthquake, destruction, and the collapse of powerful structures. But this is not meant to frighten us. However, it is true that the end time message has been widely misunderstood. In recent times, some religious groups have pointed to the occurrence of wars, natural disasters, famines, and moral decadence as potential signs of end time. A viral prophecy from a South African pastor, Joshua Mlakela, predicted that rapture would occur on September the 23rd to 24th, 2025, claiming Jesus revealed the date to him in a 2018 dream. This prediction sparked widespread online discussion, with some followers selling possessions to prepare. But the event did not occur as predicted. It is as if every time someone predicts the date of the end of the world, God pushes the date back a little just to be funny. In the midst of all this, our readings assure us that faith in God's kingdom will provide the ultimate security and hope. The first reading from the prophet Malachi, chapter 3, narrates the prophet's message to a world undergoing change. Malachi lived during the time of restoration, which followed the Babylonian exile. At this time, the Israelites were rebuilding their temple, their city, and their lives. However, the excitement of the return was ruined by the attitude of the temple leaders, who were deeply corrupt, primarily through their disrespect for God, corrupt religious practices, and unethical behavior. And this widespread corruption was a major reason for the spiritual apathy and social injustice that was prevalent among the people. Significantly, the poor suffered at the hands of the rich, and the morale of the people got weakened. Now, faced with all these, the people yearned for God's intervention and restoration. For Malachi, his message of hope was that God will return, but he will return with his judgment. And God's judgment will consume evil like a flash fire of intense heat, whereas the faithful will be purified by the same fire. Thus, Malachi presented God's judgment as a double-edged sword. It comes to burn out the darkness and sin that weakens and corrupts the land, but the faithful will emerge stronger. My dear friends, we live in a time when many people feel that the world is changing and coming to an end morally, politically, and environmentally, and we need God's big intervention. You know what? The big temptation here is to be despaired and give up. This was a state that the Thessalonian community found themselves when Paul wrote the text of our second reading to them, 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. Paul exhorted them to keep walking, living faithfully, and not give in to despair just because everything seems to be passing away. Beloved friends, the end of the world for believers is not darkness, but dawn. No matter how things seem to fall apart, perseverance and not resignation or indifference is the fruit of courage. and courage is rooted in hope. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 21, which we read today, Jesus uses the image of the destruction of the temple to warn us about the impermanence of the most beautiful and expensive symbols of immortality that we gather around ourselves. These things, as we see them today, will pass. And when they pass, it is those who faithfully trust in God that will stand. Today, pastors and faith communities continue to stir up fear in order to sound prophetic or attract members, and many people get agitated at the slightest hint of the end time. Like some early Christians, we could be scared about the end time and lose focus of Jesus' message of steadfast hope. Now, the profound teaching about the end time is not necessarily the physical ending of the world, but on how people should live now. It seems that at some point in everybody's lifetime, the world closes in. Imagine that you got a bad news from the doctor. You have cancer, or you have just lost your most supportive spouse, parents, or child. You have lost your job because of downsizing in your company, or your spouse just filed for a divorce. When these happen, your energy, mobility, and future are all violently thrown down. So what is next? Jesus says, by your perseverance, you will secure your lives. Really? Yes, bad things happen to good people as well. But the good news is that God's presence never ceases in the face of hardship. Jesus' attitude to evil gives us a new way of understanding pain, suffering, and fear. I am not sure if anyone can endure tragedy without the hope that Jesus offers. Without a gaze on Jesus Christ, there is no hope. Only Jesus offers us the kind of hope that is readily available for every believer, even in the midst of tragedy. He promises to walk with us through hard times and good times. Now, what if I told you that the story of God's relationship with us is never overshadowed by the darkness and ruins around us? Therefore, dear friends, we must never give up nor surrender to cheap prophecies. Instead, let us live in steadfast hope that assures us that even if the world breaks our body, it cannot touch the life that is in us. May God bless you.